experienced is Thanksgiving, and I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. But sometimes teachers have the tendency to miss, a critical connection to the social studies curriculum. And, my principal once said, I don't want to see pilgrim hats and in feathers. I want students to have an understanding of context and place, that historical perspective of why Thanksgiving came to be. And one way in which we could do that is really thinking about how did we begin celebrating it as a national holiday. There was a great article, Beyond Pilgrims, Hats, and Turkey Hands, using Thanksgiving to promote citizenship and activism, that really digs into a woman's quest for, Thanksgiving to become a national holiday. In this book, Thank You, Sarah, The Woman Who Saved Thanksgiving, is a vehicle to do that. So again, holiday curriculum, it really can provide an opportunity for elementary teachers to dig into social studies content in a meaningful way. And with this book, we're looking at using it to explore the big ideas of government and civics, as well as historical perspective. There is a video that I'm going to link you to that introduces this book.
Thank You, Sarah, The Woman Who Saved Thanksgiving. Humph. By Lori Halse Anderson, illustrated by Matt Faulkner. You think you know everything about Thanksgiving, don't you? How the Native Americans saved the Pilgrims from starving? How the Pilgrims held a big feast to celebrate and say thank you. Turkey, pumpkin pie, cranberries, the works. Well, listen up. I have a news flash. We almost lost Thanksgiving. Didn't know that, did you? It's true. Way, way back when skirts were long and hats were tall, Thanksgiving was fading away. Sure, the folks up in New England celebrated it. They'd roast a turkey and invite the relatives when the harvest came in, but not in the South, not in the West, not even in the Middle Atlantic states. More and more people ignored the holiday. Thanksgiving was in trouble. It needed a superhero. No, not that kind. Thanksgiving needed a real superhero. Someone bold and brave and stubborn and smart. Thanksgiving needed Sarah Hale. Now, I know what you're thinking. She doesn't look like a superhero. She looks like a dainty little lady. Never underestimate dainty little ladies. Sarah Hale was every inch a superhero. Not only did she fight for Thanksgiving, she fought for playgrounds for kids, schools for girls, and historical monuments for everyone. She argued against spanking, pie for breakfast, dull stories, corsets and bloomers and bustles, and very serious things like slavery. As if that weren't enough, she raised 5 children, wrote poetry, children's books, novels, and biographies, was the first female magazine editor in America, published great American authors like Henry Wadsworth, Longfellow, and Edgar Allan Poe, and composed Mary Had a Little Lamb. How did she do all of these things? She was bold, brave, stubborn, and smart. And Sarah Hale had a secret weapon, a pen. When Sarah saw something she didn't like, she picked up her pen and wrote about it. She wrote letters. She wrote articles. She wrote and wrote and wrote until she persuaded people to make the world a better place. Nothing stopped Sarah. Sarah Hale loved Thanksgiving. She wanted the whole country to celebrate it on the same day. When folks started to ignore Thanksgiving, well, that just curdled her gravy. She picked up her pen. Sarah wrote letters, thousands of letters, asking politicians to make Thanksgiving a national holiday. She wrote magazine articles asking her readers for help. The women of...
Okay, I apologize. We cut off there in a second, so I'm going to continue.
Asking her readers for help. The women of America listened. They put down their babies, their hoes, their skillets, and their washing. They picked up their pens and wrote. When the letters arrived, the politicians listened too. One by one, the states officially made Thanksgiving a holiday. But that wasn't good enough. Sarah Hale wanted the whole country to celebrate together, like a family. She went to the top. Sarah wrote to the president himself, Zachary Taylor. He refused. Did that stop Sarah? No. She waited for the next election and wrote to the new president, Millard Fillmore. He said no too. Did that stop Sarah? No. She was bold, brave, stubborn, and smart. Sarah wrote to the next president, Franklin Pierce. Wouldn't a national day of Thanksgiving be wonderful? No, Pierce grumped. Sarah penned an elegant letter to President James Buchanan. She gave all the reasons why America would be better off if everyone gathered on the fourth Thursday in November to give thanks. President Buchanan disagreed. He had other things on his mind. Sarah felt like the stuffing had been kicked out of her. Everything was going wrong. America was at war, the North against the South. States that had promised to celebrate Thanksgiving changed their mind. The country was falling apart. It was a bleak and scary time. Did that stop Sarah? No way. Nothing stopped Sarah. Superheroes work the hardest when things get tough. She picked up her mighty pen and wrote another letter, this time to President Abraham Lincoln. America needed Thanksgiving, now more than ever. A holiday wouldn't stop the war, but it could help bring the country together. She signed the letter, folded it, and slid it into an envelope. She wrote Mr. Lincoln's name and address on the envelope and stuck on a stamp. She mailed the letter. She waited, and she waited. And then Lincoln said yes. Lincoln said yes. In 1863, President Lincoln made Thanksgiving a national holiday, a day for all Americans to give thanks together. It took Sarah Hale 38 years, thousands of letters, and countless bottles of ink, but she did it. Nothing stopped Sarah. That bold, brave, stubborn, and smart lady saved Thanksgiving for all of us. Thank you, Sarah. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Okay, so back to our PowerPoint. Very, very great opportunity for you to incorporate writing. It really shows the power of her persistence and her persuasive writing. After writing to 4 presidents before Lincoln, giving her, an ear, and recognizing that during the Civil War, this would be an opportunity to kind of bring the country together. So this would be a good place to revisit the class timeline that we had on the wall with the events of the Civil War, and thinking about the context of Sarah Hale's letter and actually Thanksgiving becoming a holiday. You can actually see through primary resource archives the physical letter that she sent to President Lincoln, and it has been nicely transcribed. So it presents an opportunity to do some annotation and to thinking about the purpose of persuasive writing, because here she is saying, we now need this to be a permanent institution, Thanksgiving held on the same day in all of the states. And I need your help to make it happen, Mr. President. So this would be a great letter to to follow up with and to actually spur students into activism. What are some things that they want to see in their community, and who can help them achieve that goal? Is it a local politician? And what can we do as citizen activists to bring about the change that we want to see? So a great opportunity for you to connect to social issues in students' communities, and thinking about what is important to them. Another piece of literature that is also good during Thanksgiving is How Many Days to America? A Thanksgiving Story by Eve Bunting. And so this book really follows a family leaving their home country, as refugees, trying to make it to the United States. And as it turns out, they arrive on Thanksgiving Day. So it really kind of brings out that discussion on who is a pilgrim, and ways in which we all have had difficult situations, and perhaps reasons why we are thankful during this holiday season. So it is a good way for you to make current connections today as well. So, a good, just to kind of recap what these two books illustrate, are civic engagement. So typically when we think about Thanksgiving, we typically tend to stay in the big idea of historical perspective, but also, these books present the opportunity for students to have that critical literacy lens and thinking about ways in which they could take action, whether it is helping immigrants or refugees in our own community, learning more about how we can help those individuals, but also you can also connect to cultures and societies. Like have your students think about ways in which they celebrate Thanksgiving, or we could reinvent what we mean by Thanksgiving in general. So lots of different ways to tap into these particular strategies. Another image sometimes that's used is this painting by Norman Rockwell, Freedom from Want. And, when we look at this image, this is typically what people think about when you say Thanksgiving. But I think it would be good to kind of challenge this notion of how different ways in which people celebrate. And does this represent what Thanksgiving looks like at your table? A time to honor some of those differences in your classroom. Guys, there's tons of literature out there, and as you build text sets around this particular time of the year, you'll want to, of course, be inclusive of the different perspectives, like what might Thanksgiving mean to Native Americans, and how it impacted their way of life forever. So here's another book from National Geographic Society, 1621, A New Look at Thanksgiving, which kind of looks at the Wampanoag people. I guess just in making connections, you want to give students an opportunity to bring their cultures, to celebrate those differences in your classroom. And here's a picture of my Thanksgiving table. Technology can be used to do so many wonderful things, as you all illustrated in your digital documentaries. You can have your students share their images from Thanksgiving and maybe create a space to highlight that in your classroom. And I couldn't resist showing you my little pumpkin's first Thanksgiving. That was last year. This year he was sick Thanksgiving, so unfortunately I have no year two, or well, not quite two, but 15-month picture to share. I guess the last thing I too want to say about this is there's so many opportunities to connect to service learning, and just going beyond the food drive. Do your students know the organizations that are out there in the community helping, not just during this time of the year long. Service learning, of course, is a way for you to be intentional about connecting the curriculum with opportunities in the community for students to be civically engaged. So there are lots of organizations out there, feedingamerica.org, of course, Dare to Care. And, your students may even be recipients of some of these services. So just being sensitive to that and ways in which we could support and empower our students to be change agents in their community. Okay, so we're going to switch